I was always kind of coming up with stories and telling stories. And even when I was maybe 3 or 4 years old, I would tell these stories to my mom and ask her to type them up for me so that she could print them up and I could illustrate the pictures. And so really, ever since I could talk, I was telling stories. I kind of got more serious or had more focus with my writing when I was a teenager and started to seriously consider, wanting to do it as a career someday. And for that, I wrote what's called fan fiction for about 10 years of my life. And fan fiction is when you take an existing story from like a book or a movie or a television show, and you write stories using that world and those characters. And then I had the idea for Cinder and decided, okay, this is it. This is going to be my first novel, or at least I'm going to try to make it my first novel. The idea for it actually started with a fan fiction that I wrote. I had heard about a writing contest that was happening on a fan fiction website. In order to enter, you had to choose 2 things from her list and include them in a short story. The 2 things that I chose were that I was going to set my story in the future and include a fairy tale character. And I ended up writing this science fiction retelling of the fairy tale Puss in Boots. My story was one of only 2 stories that had been entered into the contest, and it came in 2nd place. But I came away from that thinking, that was so much fun to write. I really loved combining these 2 genres, fairy tales and science fiction. It seemed like they have absolutely nothing in common, but I thought that there was a lot of potential there and I could do something with that. It took me about 2 years to write, and from when I finished writing it and started submitting it to agents, it was about 3 months then before I had a book deal. It was very, very fast, and I was very surprised and of course elated.
I am not a full-time writer. I'm a partner in Side by Side Creative, a marketing company my wife and I own together. I'm on the Parks Board of Tacoma, and then writing. So some days I might be just writing furiously all day, and other days I might not get to it because I've got other 2 jobs going. I started writing in grade school, and I had this vision of being a grade school bestseller, and I wrote an 80-page novel. I thought it was great, and then I wrote a sequel, and then I wrote a sequel, and then I actually had a real novel because it was longer than 80 pages. And that was the thing that kept me going, because anytime I got stuck on any later work, it was like, you did this in middle school, why can't you do it now? I actually really have 3 genres that I've written in. I have 3 mystery novels, a series. It's a computer hacker who becomes a detective and his adventures. I have 2 guidebooks for nonprofits, fundraising and social media. And then I'm starting a science fiction trilogy. The first book came out in October. That one's been very exciting because it's an adventure with global stakes, and I haven't written anything like that before. I'm self-published. The new word that people are using to sound less self-published like is independent publishing. It used to be that you would look down your nose at self-publishing. It was pretty accurately called vanity publishing, because you would pay $20,000 and you'd get 500 books in your basement, and they'd never move anywhere because there was no distribution method. There was no way to get them out except for selling them one by one in the trunk of your car, practically. Everything changed with the Kindle, with the rise of ebooks. For practically free, my wife is a graphic designer, so she designs my covers. I format the books as ebooks. I can upload them to the Kindle, I can upload them as a print book, and I only pay if someone buys it. So I don't have to have 500 books in the basement.
I wrote fan fiction for a long, long time, many, many years.
Which books?
Sailor Moon, actually. Are you familiar?
Not really.
No? Oh, you're missing out. You need to get in touch with your teenage girl side. Sailor Moon is a Japanese anime, very like magic girl, superhero type. Lots of fun. Anyway, so I'd experienced time and again, the flash of inspiration, like I have to write that, but it had always been for fan fiction. And so this was the first time where I had an idea for an original novel that I was so excited about. And it was like, I have to write that. I have to try to get it published and see what happens. So.
And it worked out.
It worked out, yeah. How about that?
That's great.
Quite miraculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I started not thinking that I would be writing mysteries and science fiction because it seemed I don't want to say lowbrow, but I was like an English major, and I was reading all these like great books and convoluted timelines with, you know, cyclical structures, and I thought that's what I should be writing.
Right, symbolism.
Yeah, oh, just dripping with symbolism. And I wrote that, like that's what I wrote for so long. And then you know, got jobs and I couldn't keep that going on the side. And so after a few years had gone by, I thought if I can finish a novel in a month, it's got to be genre. Like that's the only way I'm going to have a chance is like genre fiction, let's just like go. And that's how The Saints Go Dying came out. It's like a serial killer in LA and a detective has to stop him. Like, you know, dun dun dun.
Yeah,
like
right.
And that's what it took. And suddenly I was like, I like this. Like I like the genre fiction and I like the fun because that's what I grew up reading. I think about writing as this room is a great example, as like interior decorating. Because it's like, it might be a great couch and it's just bad for the room. Mm-hmm. So when I'm trying to decide what I'm writing, it's like, I love this scene, I love this moment or this character. I either need to change the entire room to make it work or the couch has got to go.
Right.
So that's kind of
an interesting way to think
how
about
I think
it.
about it.
And if you have to get rid of something you love, you know, you might be able to use it as a deleted scene on a blog somewhere or something.
That's a really good point.
That's kind of how I always try to comfort myself when you have to get rid of that scene.
It'll be like an extra perk for the fans or something like that.
Yeah, like it didn't quite fit with the book, but I know you want to read it.
Right.
Do you think you'll ever do any extras? Do you have all this back history in your mind?
I have a lot of it, and I've toyed with the idea for the Lead Cloak of having like a short story set from one of the main characters, like, you know, how she became like she is, I guess similar to what you're thinking, like, you know, here's the backstory, here's a pivotal scene. But part of me likes having the secrets, like knowing the things that never make it into the book because it makes me feel like they're a little bit more rounded, like I'm not. It's like if you put it out all on the page, then that's all there is. But if I know things about the character that inform them that the reader doesn't totally get, maybe that makes them feel like a little bit more of a real person.
Right.
I don't know.
No, I know what you're saying. I do appreciate those moments when like a reader will ask me a question about, you know, the world building or the character background, and I actually have an answer for it. And I'm like, oh, you don't know this, but let me tell you. Then I get really excited. I feel like I know what I'm doing. There's actually a flaw in my world building.
Oh no,
I
you
know.
don't say it now.
Oh, I have to tell you now.
Okay.
It's okay, I'm proud of it. It is what it is. But the thing is, technology-wise, in the books, they're not that far in the future. It's not really that advanced technology. You know, even like Cinder's cyborg makeup and a lot of these things, pretty much based on things that we're working toward right now. So like on that level, maybe 100 or 200 years in the future. But then I have this, you know, society of mutant people living on the moon, and, you know, evolution, very slow process. So those two things are kind of at odds, hence my made-up time period in the future.
That's your flaw? That's not a flaw.
Well, it's
That's
a fiction.
That's
it's fiction.
Exactly.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better
that's
myself.
What it's for.
Yes, but that's, people ask me, always want to know, how far in the future is it? I don't know.
After the Fourth
Yes,
World War.
let me explain to you my conundrum.
Yeah. So, even if Tacoma's not in there, do you have the 253 pride?
I do. I love Tacoma. I've actually,
Are you from here?
I am, born and raised.
Me too.
And both of my husband, born and raised in Tacoma, both of our parents, or all of our parents, born and raised in Tacoma, we're Tacoma people.
Well, and I think that it's interesting. I mean, there's an assumption that New York Times bestselling author is going to go move to some glamorous place and, you know, leave Tacoma behind and you know, come back when, you know, to snip a ribbon on a building or something like that at PLU. But I think that it's a good creative community.
I do too. Now obviously we'll see what the future holds, but I have no intention of moving right now.
And then, of course, we're the home of Frank Herbert, who
True.
is, you know, a sci-fi legend, and so that's always. I think he's still the big feather in our cap, literary-wise.
Definitely.
But yeah.
And this was great.
This was
really
fun.
Wonderful to have a nice conversation
And to talk
with you.
to talk writer stuff.
Yeah.